President Biden will head to Baltimore later today to talk about the bipartisan infrastructure bill that recently passed Congress. He will deliver remarks at the city's port. The more than $1 trillion package includes $17 billion to upgrade ports around the U.S. and help alleviate supply chain issues brought on by the pandemic. The president still needs to sign the bill into law, though. So for more on this, let's bring in Nancy Cordes, who is at the White House. All right, Nancy, so I guess that's why the president is heading to Baltimore, to the port, because some of the money will go to ports around the country. What do we expect to hear from him in his speech today?
Well, he's going to start selling this bill that has now passed, Anne-Marie. He's going to tout in particular the $17 billion in the bill that's going to be going to modernize ports like the Port of Baltimore and also to strengthen the supply chain, something that's on a lot of Americans' minds right now as they wonder whether their holiday gifts are going to arrive on time. This is going to be the start, the White House says, of a real blitz by the president, the vice president, Secretary of Transportation, and others to make sure that Americans understand and appreciate everything that is in this bill and what it is going to mean for them. The president has been making the claim that people are going to start seeing the effects within weeks. And that may be a little optimistic, but it is true that states are already starting to identify which projects are going to get some of this cash. And they're actually getting underway with projects now that they know that the money is going to be there to pay for them.
So do we have a better sense, though, of how the money will be divided? Sometimes with these sort of big bills, you have, this amount of money is going to go to XYZ. It's portioned out. It's given to the states. And then maybe the state determines exactly how the money is going to be used. Right. Other times the states, the money is stipulated very clearly, very specifically. So do we have any clarity on that?
It's a mix, which is not surprising when you're talking about a $1 trillion pot of money. It really depends on what aspect of infrastructure you're talking about. So, for example, broadband, there's $65 billion in the bill to go to modernizing, expanding, speeding up the nation's broadband system. Each state is going to get at least $100 million for starters, but they're all going to get a lot more than that. And it is going to be apportioned based on whether states have very costly internet that's more of a burden for people in that state, the internet speed in that state, and also whether there are large rural or tribal areas in that state that are currently unserved or underserved. So, if you imagine a state that is large but has enormous swaths that are not covered by broadband right now, it's going to be more expensive to bring broadband to those areas. And that's really what this bill is designed to help with. So those states are going to get a lot more money. When it comes to big transit projects, some of them are specifically identified in the bill. So we know, for instance, that New York's Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the subway system essentially, is earmarked for $10.5 billion right off the bat. This is a system that suffered mightily during the pandemic. Ridership plummeted at the start of the pandemic by 90%, unsurprisingly. So they had a major revenue shortfall. And then there are other projects that governors and state officials are starting to say, obviously, we're going to put a lot of money towards this. For instance, in South Carolina, there's this infamous tangle of highways outside of Columbia, the state's capital, that is often referred to as Malfunction Junction. And so they're going to be putting some of the money towards fixing those highways to make it easier to get on and off of them, to transfer between them. There's another bridge in Kentucky. It really connects Kentucky to Ohio, goes over the Ohio River. And it is a major thruway. It is on a major highway, so it's important to freight and trucking, but it's so old and overburdened that there are chunks of concrete that routinely fall into the river below. That's another project that we already know is going to be getting an infusion of cash as well.
Well, if Schoolhouse Rock has taught me anything, it's that this infrastructure plan is just a bill, just a lonely bill sitting there on Capitol Hill until someone signs it into law. So do we have any idea when the president will actually sign it into law?
It's a long, long way to the capital city, the president. The president has followed his schoolhouse rock as well. He knows that he does need to sign this bill for any of the money to go out, but he doesn't want to sign it this week because Congress is not in session. All those lawmakers are in their home districts, and he wants to make a big splash, a big bipartisan splash. He wants to be able to sit there with Democrats and Republicans standing there behind him to say, hey, I notched a big bipartisan victory. I was able to do something that other presidents from the right and left haven't been able to do. And he wants to show, that he was the one who was able to bring two parties together. And so we haven't heard from the White House exactly what day this signing ceremony will be or how many Republicans are going to be willing in this environment to come to the White House and stand there behind him. I mean, keep in mind, some of them are now getting death threats for voting for this bill, amazingly. But we do anticipate that the signing will happen sometime early next week. And look, infrastructure is broadly popular. Who doesn't love roads and bridges, no matter what party they're from? So I do anticipate that particularly Republican senators will be willing and eager to head up here to the White House to stand there for the signing ceremony. Even the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, said yesterday that the $4.6 billion that's slated to go to Kentucky roads and bridges is a godsend, and he's thrilled that the bill has passed.
Huh. Wow. Before I let you go, got to ask you about what was our lead story actually this morning, the investigation into the January 6th attack. Former President Trump's efforts to block the January 6th investigators from accessing records related to that day has been rejected by a federal judge. Of course, Donald Trump's lawyers appealed the decision immediately. President Biden waived executive privilege. So just sort of explain to people, why he did that.
Well, because this White House has argued from the beginning that any claims of executive privilege are outweighed by the need of the public, the need of this committee to fully understand what happened on January 6th and to be able to take steps to prevent it from ever happening again. There are times when the Biden White House has shied away from openly clashing with President Trump. They like to say, that's in the past, we're focused on the future. But on this topic, they've been very willing to engage and to say that they believe that President Trump was directly responsible for what happened at the U.S. Capitol, and they don't believe that any communications that he had or that happened around him on that day or leading up to that day should be shielded by executive privilege. They don't believe that that is what executive privilege was created to do. And so they are going to be, I'm sure they'll get questions about this today, and they will express support for this court ruling because, they've been more than willing to share these documents already. And if there are more that pop up in the National Archives, they're going to be willing to have those come to light as well.
Right. Nancy Cordes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.